Welcome to Eric Schmidt. He is currently the Missouri Attorney General and been on the program several times. He's a friend of the program because he is not a friend of ESG, and he has been working against not only that, but an out-of-control federal government. Eric, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm great, Glenn. It's great to be back with you.
So you wrote a letter to Joe Biden about the lunch money being held back from states and from schools that are not participating in the gender bathrooms and everything else. I can't imagine how this is even legal for them to do, but can you walk us through this?
Yeah, it's not legal, and I think the intro here to this segment is very important to give context. The administrative state is antithetical to this country and what it's all about. The founders set up a system of self-government. You could send people there and you could send them home, but they were accountable to the voters. The deputy undersecretary of the Department of Education, or the EPA, is accountable to no one. No one knows who it is, and yet that person can issue guidance letters, rules, opinions that can affect millions of Americans. And we need to, one of the reasons I'm running for the United States Senate is we need to fundamentally dismantle the administrative state. From top to bottom, it's grown out of control. And this is the most recent example. You've got the Biden administration now tying lunch money to gender identity politics. And what does that mean? Well, if your state doesn't allow or prohibits men competing in women's sports, you'd be ineligible. If you don't have, these gender-neutral bathrooms, you're ineligible. So the reach is hard to fully comprehend because we really don't know what it means, but it's the most cowardly way to do it, because the way you're supposed to go about affecting things in this country is the elected representatives pass a law, right? And we all learn about the separation of powers, and there's certain checks there. Administrative agencies often issue rules that go through some scrutiny and are the basis of a lot of our legal challenges because they don't follow the rules, or they're unconstitutional, or it's something Congress should be doing. Or in this instance, they just send a letter, Glenn. They just write a letter and create this chaos and say, this is a guidance letter that says, hey, oh, by the way, you're taking this federal lunch money. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And so we're pushing back saying, hey, you're not allowed to do it, number one. And number two, it's unlawful. There's nothing in you're trying to rewrite federal law with a guidance letter. And so we're pushing back on it because it's really an extreme agenda. And I think they know they could never get the votes to do these sorts of things. Or maybe they could, I don't know, but they haven't tried. They're just firing off letters now.
Here's the craziest thing, is they continue to do these things, which are absolutely illegal. They're illegal, and they know it, but they do it anyway. And I think that's because there's a lot of states that will just go along with it. And if they can get those states through this way, that's great. But we are really, truly, what Joe Biden is doing is enacting Woodrow Wilson's greatest dream, a president who is nothing more than a chief administrator. And all of the laws, everything else is run through his administration. So it makes Congress really not. This is why the gun bill yesterday is so scary. They didn't even look at the bill. They didn't have time to even read the bill. And the devil's always in the details. And Eric, I know you've seen Obamacare and you've read Obamacare. About every other page, maybe every 2 pages, it says the director shall what was it exactly? The director shall define these regulations. So nobody had the regulations. It was left up to the director of the department to just make up the laws.
Right. And they say, we'll promulgate the rules, or we'll issue a definitional standard, and all these sorts of things. And here's the thing. It's not just the administrative state. The Article 1 branch, Congress, deserves a lot of blame here, too. Because what the founders or thought was that, each branch would jealously guard its power. I mean, read the Federalist Papers. That's what they're talking about. They jealously guard their power. But Congress does this little two-step now where they say, I voted for the greatest bill in the world, but I can't believe, the EPA did this. And that's why we got to put that genie back in the bottle. Make Congress vote on these things. Make them actually, if it's whatever, if it's you want to issue one rule, you got to pull back 10. President Trump had a good start on this. He had a 2-for-1 rule that Biden got rid of. If it's over, pick the number. If its economic impact is over X, make Congress vote on it. I guarantee a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen. But you need warriors that are going to go to Congress to actually fight for those things. But you're right. This is what they did, by the way, on the vaccine mandate, Glenn. I think I was on your show to talk about this. Missouri was the first state to file. We took that all the way to the Supreme Court. They knew what they were doing. OSHA was created to make sure forklifts beep when they back up, not to force a medical procedure on 80 million Americans. But in the meantime, a lot of these companies, a lot of these hospitals just sort of went along with it, either because they wanted to or they were concerned about the legal ramifications. So this is part and parcel of the strategy. You're right. The progressive movement, Woodrow Wilson, one of our worst, if not worst presidents of all time, sort of began this movement of the experts know better than the people, which is completely antithetical to this country. You rejected, I rejected. But here we are now. The American left has control of all the levers of power, and they are bulldozing people's constitutional rights. These red flag laws are unconstitutional. They deny due process. And yet here we are now, even Republicans saying, well, we got to pass the bill to see what's in it. I mean, that's kind of like Pelosi stuff. So anyway, it's up to the states right now to push back, and that's why we've been so aggressive.
So, Eric, tonight I'm doing a special on the Department of Education and the labor unions, the teachers union in particular. Those two things, or at least the Department of Labor has got to be, the Department of Education has got to be abolished. What happens statewide if the Department of Ed was abolished? Because people will say, they're not going to get any money for our schools then.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is most of the money in education comes from states, not from the federal government. However, there's enough that they can do things like this, right? Tie federal lunch programs to these radical policies. How about just get rid of the Department of Education and block grant the money to the states? That'd be one way to do it. But here, the tie here, Glenn, is you block grant the money to the states. One tie here that's very important. In Missouri, we have taken this issue on of the indoctrination in our schools, this woke identity politics that's making its way into our schools. We're going after it a couple of different ways. We issued subpoenas to a lot of these school districts in Missouri and around the country. And these marching orders are coming from D.C. That's why it's important to get rid of the Department of Education, because this kind of ideological rigidity that makes its way to the other states stems from the Department of Education's relationship with the teachers unions. But here's what they're doing in Missouri, which they're doing in every other state. You just got to have the guts to stand up to it. We uncovered that there is a diversity, equity, inclusion consulting firms, one of which, by the way, is Panorama, Merrick Garland's son-in-law, that's doing these invasive student surveys where they ask about kids' sexuality, parents' income, parents' political beliefs. This stuff is crazy. At the same time we issued those subpoenas to find out more about that activity, we opened up a Students First portal where parents can send us stuff that's happening in their school district. Here's what we found. Teachers, administrative staff are being trained to view their classrooms under the lens of something called the oppression matrix, where you divide up students by oppressor and oppressed. The pyramid of white supremacy, where things like colorblindness, this radical idea that you would view people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, is considered covert white supremacy. So are terms like "Make America Great Again." This kind of the gender unicorn is being pushed. And I'll tell you the other thing that we found just a couple of weeks ago, a parent sent. Kids are being forced in front of their classmates to do something called the privilege walk. I mean, this is...
Oh, my God.
These are struggle sessions, Glenn, for kids with this Marxist ideology, and we got to root it out. We just have to be unafraid and root this out, because this divisive ideology has no place in our classrooms. We need to start getting back to math and science. And how about civics? Why don't we maybe start teaching civics again? But it's out of control, and we're pushing back. So,
Eric, you're running for Senate. Your race is close between the other guy. The other guy does not look like he's able to win, or it would be close in the election against the Democrat. You beat the Democrat by 14 points. Two questions here. Will you stand to abolish this administrative state and abolish things like the Department of Education?
Yes. And one of the things I've talked about that a lot of candidates don't talk about is this. We have to dismantle the administrative state. And those are, a lot of the fights that I've had as Attorney General have been about that, right? You see the abuse, you see the overreach, you take it on. And I'm going to take that experience and that fighting spirit to the United States Senate. We need it now more than ever. The country is on the line. Now,
the next question is, I know somebody else that could run for Senate, and I'm cautioning him. I'm like, please, do you have a good replacement? Because we can't lose a great AG. We can't have you replaced as an AG by some mealy-mouthed AG. Is there somebody to step into your role that's really good?
Yeah, there is. There'll be a long line, Glenn. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of as AG, we've set the template here. In Missouri, Democrats had this office for a generation, and we've set the template for what an aggressive AG does to push back against this overreach. And I just think all these big important fights are going to roll through the United States Senate, Glenn. I mean, we need reinforcements to save America. I was proud to have Senator Mike Lee's endorsement. We announced that yesterday. Senator Ted Cruz.
Yeah,
we need more fighters. We need fighters. And the guy I'm running against is a quitter, quit on this state. That's his track record. We need somebody that's going to be unafraid, stand up to this nonsense, and fight to save America.
I know you are, and if you have Mike Lee and Ted Cruz's endorsement, those are the two that are an absolute must-have, I think, for anybody that's going to be in the Senate. And I so appreciate how aggressive you've been on ESG and also on the Department of Education and what's happening in our schools. Eric Schmidt, what is your web address if somebody wants to get involved with your campaign?
Yeah, Schmidt for Senate, SCHMITTFOR Senate.com. They can follow me on all the Twitter machines and Facebooks too, but if they want to get involved, Schmidt for Senate's the website, and this is a great movement we've got. We need conservative fighters right now. They're going to push back, and President Trump showed us what that meant, and we got to take these folks on.
Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it. Schmidt for Senate is the web address.com.